All right, we're recording.
All right. Well, welcome everybody to the passport party for Western Washington University's EdAbroad Con. So this is the first time we've been doing this virtually. So apologies in advance for any technical difficulties, but I'm super excited to have representatives from the Seattle Passport Agency with us today to share their expertise and information. And then we, of course, could not put on this event without our partner, CEA. So Laura, do you want to do a little introduction of CEA just so folks know what it is?
Yeah, sure. So CEA is a provider, study abroad provider, partner of Western Washington's Education Abroad Office, have been since 2010. But yeah, we offer study and intern abroad programs, and we've had many of Western students on our programs before. I do have like a little bit of a kind of overview, but we're in 22 cities. We have 15 internship locations around the world, and everything has come to a big halt. And we do have some students abroad this semester. Very few, students who have made the commitment to be learning abroad this time. But really, we most of our programs have been closed, and we're just waiting for the pandemic to not be a pandemic anymore, for students to be able to travel freely and without border restrictions. And anyway, we're really excited to be here with the Seattle Passport Agency folks. So thank you for being here. And thank you, of course, for inviting me, Krista and team. This is always a pleasure. This is an annual event, and I look forward to it every year. And I am looking forward to getting on campus, your beautiful campus. Eventually, I do miss it. So someday.
Yeah, someday. Yeah, absolutely. Well, and the difficult thing, of course, so many difficult things with COVID and pandemics, but one of the first things to do about planning your experience abroad is getting that passport and knowing that you have it ready and valid, ready to go, and that you can do now, even when you can't buy that plane ticket. So we're excited to offer something that can be an action item for students, so they can still be working towards their education abroad. So I think to start, do we want to start, do you know which PowerPoint you wanted to use first, guys?
Um, well, let's do the no, let's do the main let's just try to do the study abroad 101 presentation first. Then if we have the time, we can do through the strength of the passport and how that is seen by the world.
Okay.
And to start things off, my name is Michael Lane. I'm one of the customer service managers at the Seattle Passport Agency. This is my counterpart, Francisco Carmona. So we're here to hopefully educate you on the process and provide some insight in the passport deal here.
And welcome to everybody. Thank you for being here and listen to what we have to say. Mostly we are here to explain to you the passport process, which is a very simple, in reality, process. But mostly also on top of that, to kind of provide you with some guidance of what services are available to you as a student, an American student studying in a foreign country, and what services the U.S. consulate or U.S. embassy will be available, will be made available to you while you are there. Okay. So mostly what we would like to highlight after we talked about the passport is what can we do for you while you are there, and what things you should not be doing if you want to stay safe and you are not making your parents too crazy while you're staying in a foreign country. It's we will have a Q&A section at the end. But as we were talking, if you will just write down your questions, so you will have them ready to present at the end after we finish talking, so that will be easier to address all in one group of questions, one after the other. If you have an immediate question that you would like answered, you can bring it on, but I would prefer that you hold on till we get to the Q&A and we can address all the questions in a row, because usually your question and the answer to that question will cause another question from one of your fellow students. So if you could keep all together, we will answer all those questions in one big group. And that being said, will you click to the next slide, please? So how many of you think Americans that you are going to encounter overseas while you are in a foreign country? On average, 325,000 U.S. citizens are abroad in a study program that be as a graduate or undergraduate program. Some are at Fulbright. Some others are in other, types of programs. But these on the right are the list of the most commonly common destinations for U.S. students abroad. These standards or these averages here are basically based on pre-pandemic, prior years. So this is pre-2020. As you can see, that the UK have been, and it's pretty much the most popular because the language easiness of use. But other countries are pretty much what you see there. It have been always an up and down of what country make the second, the third, the fourth, and so on for American students. But the same countries usually are the average at the top of the list. Americans like these destinations, they like the atmosphere, they like what those countries offer, and of course, the study programs that are offering those countries are very appealing to many Americans. Therefore, the bulk of American students will end up in one of those countries, more or less. I cannot say that this year the numbers and the destinations are going to stay the same, mostly because we are working on under the pandemic, the restrictions of travel, the restrictions on the issues of vaccination and the issues of how level of infections is affecting all the numbers and all the prior outcomes. You can have more information about the programs at the bottom of the slide. You will see the students abroad at state.gov. And I will say that should be one of your primary pages of info to get an idea of what to do for you overseas and what other information we can provide for you for that foreign country that you might be looking at going in the future. Next slide, please. In preparation for you to go, I'm sure many of you already have a plan of an idea of where you would like to go. You are basically looking at it tentatively about, I would love to go to Florence in Italy, and then from there, it would be easy for me to reach Venice and to reach Rome by train. And you're looking at all the options of how beneficial or attractive that one destination that you have seen in the program that you have looked at. And you are very enthusiastic about the trip, about the program, about what you will get to see, what you will get to do. But before you go, it's where the real hard work entails a lot of preparation, planning, researching, studying, not just only your destination, but also what will happen in worst case scenarios, what will happen if I need medical care, how do I communicate with my parents, how do I get money, and so on and so on. So in the website that we have, again, in the Study Abroad side, you will find a lot of information, but mostly as a benefit to travelers, we offer a checklist of what you need to start thinking about way before your trip, way before the departure from the United States. You should have covered several bases at our end before you arrive at that airport that day with your beautiful passport in your hand and going, tomorrow I will be in Paris. Now, before you get there, I need you to start thinking the facts of life that affect that trip. That means, do I have everything I need? Am I prepared for the worst case scenario? Do I have the proper paperwork? Do I have the proper insurance? And do I have all the information concerning the services that the U.S. consulate and U.S. embassy will do for you in case of that worst case scenario? Next slide, please. So, study your destination, the laws that goes with that destination, the laws that will regulate you as a student in that foreign country. What is the correct way of doing things? But it goes beyond that. It goes also to the idea not only of knowing the problems in the country, but also how you work in the country. The local requirements, sorry, the local requirements could go beyond just the laws and specifics. Do you have an idea of what do you do for the whole concept of, well, does my phone plan will cover me in Italy? Will I be able to use my phone? Very simple issues here because we don't think about it. But in that foreign country, you cannot take for granted that your phone will be working. So again, it requires a lot of planning on the whole concept of the foreign country, how things are done there, what do I need to be there. People with special circumstances in which you can be differentiated as a separate group from the main group, need to consider that not all the legal and cultural conditions in every country are equal to the conditions here in the United States. Persons with disabilities will not always have, let's say, a wheelchair. You will not always find buildings that offer ramps to go on your wheelchair. Again, you need to be familiar how is what availability for special conditions per person exists in that one country, and how prevalent are those the offering of that type of facility. LGBTI community has to be aware that not every country perceives the community the way it's perceived or addressed here in the United States. And there it becomes more a legal issue, and they need to be aware of those legal conditions there to make sure that they are not putting themselves in danger by not complying fully with the requirements of that country. Be aware that not everybody that will become your friend is your friend. And not everybody that is there that offers you a drink at the bar or basically say, oh, I will drive you across town and show you the city will be always a true friend. There might be some conditions addressed or some expectations later on. Ultimately, always make copies of your papers, make sure that everybody's aware of your itinerary, where you're going to be in, stay in contact with your family, make sure your family knows how to get in contact with you. If they cannot reach you on that phone, what other ways are there for them to communicate with you? That be by text, by the university that you are. So make sure that once you get there and you are getting already settled, you have ways to prove who you are. So keep a set of copies of your birth certificates, your passport at home, a Xerox copy with you in your luggage. We recommend that you should try not to travel through the country with your passport in hand in all times. It's possible try to keep it in a safe place. And when you are in the streets, just a Xerox copy of your passport ID page should be available in case somebody stops you and asks you for your papers, just like in the movies. Trust me, it does happen. The issue that you can just pull out that piece of paper, show them, they will say, oh, you're an American, and you will say yes, and they will say, where are you staying? And you will explain to them. If they need to see the original passport, then possibly they will escort you to your dorm, to your apartment, and then verify that your identity. But we prefer that you leave the passport in a safe place and travel only with a copy of your documentation. Next slide. So you have the idea where you're going, you know what program you're going to select for your trip, you have made copy of your document, you have read about the law, you know what everything you need to know about that country, you feel comfortable, you have sat down with your counselor at the university, they have given you all the information that you need for your program, what you have to proceed to do next to join that program. Sooner or later, you will need a specific documentation, paperwork done to accomplish. They have to be submitted. You have to get received back what you want. That be a passport, a student visa. Currently, the way we are moving internationally, not just the United States, internationally, we are coming to a consensus that a proof of vaccination very possibly will become a standard for international travel by the end of this summer. So we are not there yet, but very possible at the moment you should have a proof of your vaccination when you head out of the United States. At a minimum, you will have to have a COVID test done here, possibly another test when you get there. You will have to go, you will have been informed of any type of regulation restraining your movement for the next 14 days or so when you get to that destination to verify that you are not carrying the virus. And ultimately, that paperwork is all separately. It's not in one location where you are going to submit all the paperwork. You will obtain the passport from us. The visa, you need to submit that passport once in your hand to the foreign consulate, that be, let's say, the Italian embassy, to get your student visa. You get the passport back with your visa in it. You have to have your test, your vaccinations, and then when you have completed all that list of requirements, then you can say, I'm ready to go to my trip. Before that, different things that need to happen as preparation for the passport, and we will talk about that separately. But ultimately, you have to have several pieces of paper, documents in your possession before you can depart the country. And basically, you will have to basically create another set of documentation in that foreign country if we continue to be under the current COVID requirements. And every country has a separate way of dealing with not just tourist travelers, for students going to that country, commercial travelers. So everybody, you have to adjust to the specific of that specific country. There is no one set of rules across the planet to determine how you will be treated or what documentation will be required of you when you arrive to country X versus country D. Next slide. For the passport, we would like you to apply as soon as possible. Once you have determined that this is going to happen in the future, you should proceed to apply for the passport. The passports are good for 10 years. So it's not like you are going to waste your money if you apply and you decide not to go. But the process right now is taking 6 to 8 weeks to get a passport, and that would be if you pay the expedite service. The routine service is taking longer than we have expected at this point in the year. There have been some issues created by the pandemic that have slowed down the production of passports. Therefore, we have some limitations in how fast this passport can be back in your hands. If you pay the expedite fee, it's an additional $60. We prefer that you apply plenty of time before your departure, so you have time to send it for your visa, which remember is a separate process. But that you apply for your passport without having to pay for the expedite service. We have 7,000 facilities across the country in which basically passport applications are taken and then submitted to us for processing. But once the whole process is completed, it takes around 8 weeks, 10 weeks, depending on what time of the year. If we go historically, the passport peak season begins in 2 weeks. In 2 weeks, historically, is when the number of applications explode exponentially, and we reach a total of 1 million applications in process across the country. Right now, we have close to around 800,000 applications in process. So we're about to begin a very difficult part of the year. So the sooner the better. So consider that. Click, please, to the next. Photos. The photo standards are pretty simple. A lot of the post offices, Walgreens, CVS, Rite Aid, they take photos. Walmart's, some of the Walmart that have the photo centers. Costco no longer takes passport photos, for what we understand. They stopped the process at the end of last month. So go get your passport photos. No glasses for your photo. Make sure that your face is clearly seen. No shadows. There's the restriction. You can find a whole page of restrictions on photos in our website. But make sure that you take your photos before you go to apply, so you have that handy at the moment. Not every facility that takes passport application will be also providing the photos. So make sure you have passport photos already taken in before you arrive. Many locations that you apply for passports require to have an appointment. Mostly now during the pandemic, a lot of the acceptance facilities have limited the amount of hours and how many people they can handle in one day. Therefore, an appointment is an absolute necessity. When you apply, you submit your application, your birth certificate, your photo, your ID. They will make copies of your ID. You wouldn't have to, the birth certificate has to come to us, the original, but we will return that later once we complete the process. In return, you will receive your passport book or card, or both. If you are going internationally, the passport card will not do the trick. What you need is a passport book where the foreign country can place a student visa into the passport. So when you apply for your passport, you have to apply for a passport book. If you wish to apply for a passport card, so you can travel up to Canada at any given time later by car, well then sure, proceed and add that to the application. That's only an additional $30. But as for what you want is a passport book. Again, it will be passport application, passport photo, your birth certificate, or any previous old passport that you might have. There will be $35 paid to the acceptance facility and $110 to the Department of State. In return, the passport should be back to you in 8 to 10 weeks at this point, and we send the birth certificate back to you, if not with the passport, in a separate envelope later on, but it will be returned to you. Next slide, please. So you have already decided, you have done all the paperwork, you have your passport in your hand, the visa is already inserted into this passport, you have discussed to the nth degree the travel with your parent, your counselor, you have maybe been already in communication with your counselor in that foreign country who have provided you with additional information, you appear to have everything in the go, you have packed your bags, you have bought your tickets, you are ready. You have even your tourist book for that country in your hand. So what else could go wrong? So many things, but I cannot go through the whole list. What we, the U.S. Department of State, would like you to attend to, if possible, or that we prefer that you absolutely do, is to go into our website and join the STEP program. The program is basically informing the U.S. consulate that you will be in that country, whatever country you select to go, for X period of time. In return for providing us with that information, the U.S. consulate will provide you with any type of news or warnings about what's happening in the country, what to prevent you from going, or trying to tell you, nah, maybe that's not a good idea. And we're not trying to keep tabs on you. We don't have the time to keep tabs on you. Remember, there will be 320-something thousand students across the planet. There is less than basically 10,000 of us overseas. We do not have time to babysit or look after you, spy on you, check on you. No, that's not what we're there for. What we're there for is when you need us, we will be there. So besides providing you with information about what's happening in that country, we will also be evacuating you from that country. Suddenly there's war, there's an earthquake, there is a nuclear plant. They have decided that it was destroyed by a tsunami and an earthquake, and suddenly we have a radiation cloud coming your way. We are going to tell you tomorrow at Airport X, we will be taking United States citizens back to the United States. And we will tell you to be there as soon as possible. Meaning, we will give you a warning, we will tell you what is available to you, and it's your decision to decide if you're going to come meet us, and we will, again, take you out of that country and take you to a safe place. So all that is involved through the STEP program. Going to the website, you can read all the information necessary for it. It's very important to us that you do so. The U.S. consul basically will be aware of your presence in the country. If there's any other situation that evolves while you are there, they will let you know by email mostly, or by text, if that's how they ultimately decide to do that, to be aware of the circumstances that are affecting your safety in that foreign country. Next slide. The program, again, is not to us to spy on you. We don't have the time for that. The consular staff abroad is limited. We have more functions that we can address with the staff that we have. So the staff is very busy doing several different things. The program is there to help you. The Smart Traveler Enrollment Program, and it's straightforward. You put in your information, your contact information, the country that you're going to go for what periods of time, and the consulate will be reporting to you of what's happening at their end that may be affecting your trip, your stay, your safety, and that's pretty much all of that. In the Nakashima reactor scenario that I just explained a minute ago, the United States basically told all United States citizens in Japan to prepare themselves for evacuation, to be ready, that they would, any of them, to be contacting them for, in case that they were not able to meet us at the airport. We get them the specific dates in which we were going to be departing from Japan, to whom to contact. In return, those people that responded to that message basically showed up at the airport. The United States consul basically boarded them onto this flight after verifying that they were U.S. citizens. If their passports were expired, because they expired while they were residing in Japan, the U.S. consul revalidated the passports in the spot so they could board the flight and return to the United States. Repatriation is another issue, and you can Google that, but it will be at some cost. But we will do the preparations and all the legwork necessary to get you out of that situation if the situation requires us to take you out of danger. So again, that's what the STEP program is all about. And please consider it seriously and try to submit that information once you have decided to go to your trip. Next slide, please. So you are there. You're having a great time. You're enjoying yourself. You're loving the program that you are in. You love the people that you have been interacting with. What happens when the worst case scenario appears at your doorstep? Before you go, I need you to consider the options of what type of insurance you might need. Just like when you're here in the United States and you have life insurance, car insurance, health insurance, what kind of insurance you will need when your time away? Most of the programs that you're going to be interacting with the university will address the issue of insurance. Health insurance mostly, in the case that you get sick, you went hiking and you broke a leg, and now what? But also the whole idea that you might have to be medevac out of that country. Mostly the medevac situation affects when you are in a country that doesn't have the best medical services, and therefore you need to be taken to a different country for medical services to occur in that other country. So you should have insurance to cover for that. If you have a medical condition presently and you still would like to join, we would love you to go, because your medical condition should not be limiting you at this point. You should go on your trip, enjoy it, experience the whole concept of study abroad. The issue is that if you have that medical condition now, before you go to, you should consider what options I have if my condition worsens or requires more attention than what I have right now. So insurance for medical care is a necessity. Insurance for medevac is not always necessary, but if you go to a third world country, let's say that you decide to go to Peru and you want to be medevac to the States because the medical services are not the greatest in Peru, sure, the medevac type of insurance basically will pay for the cost of bringing you back to the United States. Other insurance would be what happens if you have to cancel your trip because there's a situation and you have to kind of board your flight, or just the other incurred costs on rearranging your return to the U.S. You should always consider paying insurance for that one purpose in case you have to cancel everything and return to the United States before your planned departure day a year ahead, and you are basically, you were only there 3 months and suddenly something happens and you are recalled back to the United States, always consider the possibility. You have elderly parents, let's say, like, which is a good example. You have elderly parents and one of them is not in good health condition. The possibility that you might have to come back right away instead of a year from now is very present, and you should consider paying for that extra insurance so the cost of rearranging for your flight is covered and in that situation. Besides insurance, always consider the worst case scenario. We will talk more about that in a second. Do not always think that everything is going to be perfect. I will say that I have traveled a lot, and I consider that even on the best destinations or the best locales, something might happen that might have to change your plan. You might have to rearrange everything to a large degree, and you need to consider what if in all the possible scenarios that might happen while you are in that foreign country. Next slide. Medical care, I will say the most difficult one. Remember, there's going to be a difficulty on communication in language. So although many countries offer translators and such, that's always the difficulties about communicating your medical needs. Make sure that the insurance that you decide to go with covers all the possible scenarios that are involved with your situation or condition. Sometimes we have all minimal physical health issues, but what happens if you become sick? Even the most run-of-the-mill allergy suddenly breaks out while you are in that foreign country. You end up at the ER, and the doctor there recommends that you basically need to stop everything and stay in the hospital. Then I would say you will need insurance to cover for the cost that while you are there. Again, you know your own needs. You know what type of travel you're going to be doing. You understand the possibility that you might have to cancel everything. Consider all those options and decide what type of insurance you might need in the future. Next. So what can we do for you, or who we are is based on the organization that we belong to. Passport Services is one of the three main offices of the Bureau of Consular Affairs. The U.S. Department of State is the main foreign affairs institution of the United States. Inside the Department of State, the Bureau of Consular Affairs deals with the public, that be foreign or domestic, in which want to have or travel to the United States, or want to depart the United States, or is residing outside of the United States. So Passport Services and the Overseas Citizen Services Office are the two main offices that will be dealing with you between the moment that you apply for that passport, you arrive in that foreign country, and you return back to the United States. So those two organizations basically will carry on for you. The visa services will not be involved with you, as they are only focused and line up to service foreign nationals who want to travel to the United States, that be for commerce, for education, for tourism. So the visa office is only there to determine who can enter the United States that is not a U.S. citizen. So they will not be working with you during this trip. Of course, if you decide to engage, find a fiance in the foreign country, and you would like to sponsor that fiance and bring that spouse to the United States, or you decide to marry overseas, then the visa office will be the institution that will have to get involved with you and your fiance, your spouse, so that one individual can enter the United States. In the meantime, passport services, we will provide you with a passport, and the overseas citizen services will be dealing with all your problems and issues while you are residing in that foreign country, from the issue of you got arrested, you had a baby there, you decide that you want to make some type of political commentary in which ended up the foreign government have decided that they don't want you there and they would like us to take you back as soon as possible. All of those conditions possibly are being involved with the overseas citizen services. The consulates can be in several places in one country. There will be a consulate immediately connected to the U.S. Embassy, which are all in the capital, and maybe one or two other consulates in some other location in that same country. Sometimes the nearest consulate will not be in your country. You will have to go across the border to the next country to find the nearest U.S. consulate. On our most recent survey, we have around 9 million U.S. citizens residing overseas. 13,000 or so U.S. citizens every year require the services of the U.S. consular section, that be for the most simple things or for more complicated things such as we need to find you an attorney to basically defend you in court. So again, passport services, overseas citizen services are the two bodies inside the Department of State that will be dealing with you. Next slide. So what can the consulates do for you? Well, you can treat the consulate as your 911 section. The U.S. consular staff abroad is very familiar with crisis management, the idea that we have X amount of Americans residing here, visiting here, going to school here. They try to do all sorts of outreach to that community in some cases, but ultimately they are involved in the whole process of dealing with crisis. That be death, arrest, health issues, and which basically we are called from the hospital. The hospital informs us that they believe that the individual that they have in a coma in the ER is a U.S. citizen. The U.S. consul have to come over, do whatever she can do to figure out who's the individual, contact the family in the States, bring that family to bear on the situation of that individual. But the most common thing is when we do not use our common sense and we get in trouble with the law. Finding you an attorney, I would say, is one of the most common operations of the consular staff outside of issuing reports of birth abroad or notarizing paper. I would say the most is to find you a good attorney that will defend your situation. So keep in mind that we are there to provide services to you when you go to that foreign country, or before you go to that foreign country. You should have all the necessary information to get in contact with the U.S. Embassy and to the nearest U.S. consulate. You should have phone numbers, address, and such. Do not wait till the worst case scenario appears at your door for you to decide, oh, gee, I need to call the consul. I'm an American. Oh, really? Well, you should have thought about that before that moment, because sometimes at that moment, the chances and opportunity to be able to immediately reach out to the U.S. consul might not be possible. Always keep in mind, however, that the U.S. if you identify yourself as a U.S. citizen, the foreign government must provide you access to the U.S. consul. Always keep that in mind. The U.S. consul has the authority to come visit you in jail, at the hospital, any circumstance. Once you identify yourself as a U.S. citizen and you ask for the U.S. consul, the U.S. consul has the authority to show up and they cannot be prevented from reaching you. Keep that in mind because that's something that many individuals forget, and it's a necessity that you identify yourself as a U.S. citizen, even if you don't have your passport. Identify yourself as a U.S. citizen. The consul will come over, or one of the consular staff will come over, and they will then intermingle themselves into the whole process of what's going on in your case. Next slide, please. So, emergency passports. I was traveling through Frankfurt, and I was just getting in the train, and I was heading out to Bremen when I realized my passport was missing. I turned around, I went straight to the U.S. consulate in Frankfurt, and they gave me this limited passport so I could finish my trip. Yes, if you are overseas, you lose your passport, the U.S. consulate will be able to provide you with an emergency passport, or they will do the arrangement to give you a full validity passport while you are in country. That, I will say, of the non-residents that are there in school or just traveling to the country, I would say the most common service that we provide to U.S. citizens. Medical emergencies, again, we will be having to visit you in the hospital. We will try to figure out what else needs to happen to you, what kind of help do you need any financial assistance. Arrest, we will find you an attorney. We will not pay for your attorney, but we will find you an attorney. Let me make that clear, since some people think that Uncle Sam is so generous as to pay for your attorneys. No, we don't. Victims assistance, we will try to contact your family, try to get them to contact with you, send it with the welfare and whereabouts. You should leave a privacy release with your family, authorizing them to have access to your information. So they can provide that to the U.S. consul in case that you disappear, you're missing. But also, you should be more aware of what should happen between you and your family about having them access to you, contact, how you communicate. All that should be worked out before you arrive to that destination. But we do receive a very large amount of welfare and whereabouts inquiries about, well, Johnny should have called last Friday. Today's Tuesday. I have not been able to talk to him, and I'm very concerned. I would like somebody to start to get in touch with him, and so on and so on and so on. The U.S. consulate basically will try to reach out to you, telling you your family is looking for you. Of course, if we have the proper contact information. Otherwise, our crystal ball doesn't tell us that, oh, Johnny is residing in X place. So again, it's about you letting us know where you are at. Repatriation. We will bring you to the United States at the cost of Uncle Sam paying that bill, meaning we will pay for that airplane ticket and all that jazz. But you will have to repay Uncle Sam for all that cost later on. But yes, it can be done. If you show up, you have lost everything, there's nobody here in the stateside that will be paying for your return to the U.S. We will pay for your return to the U.S., but later you have to pay us back for that amount of money. Deaths and states. You guys are too young for that one, so please try not to do anything to be right into this stage. But yes, you are a United States citizen. The foreign government comes to us, tells us that they have a deceased American in the morgue. the U.S. consul will come, identify the individual, determine that the individual is a U.S. citizen, and then we will be in touch with the family in an effort to return the remains of that individual to the United States. Federal programs. The most common of the programs is voting and receiving Social Security benefits overseas. In some of the programs are less, like for veterans and such. But we help in all these possibilities when you have come to the stage in life that you need our help in some way or fashion. And we will try to assist as much as we can. Next slide. Crisis response usually doesn't have to be always in a repatriation situation. In an earthquake, many U.S. citizens might decide not to come back to the United States, meaning they are not interested in the repatriation part of our effort, and they will basically will be trying to get assistance from the consulate or embassy to help them with their situation while they're there. That's a little bit more complex, but it could be discussed with the staff about staying in country while we're trying to pull out as many Americans out of the country as possible. Citizenship documentation, a passport could be considered that, but also the report to birth abroad, and that's mostly when you are a U.S. citizen and you have that child in a foreign country, and you want to document that child as a citizen, and therefore we will do all that paperwork to document your child as a U.S. citizen. Notarial services, boarding assistant, all sorts of different other miscellaneous operations do happen in the background. But if you have any situation that requires some guidance with legal paperwork, we will be happy to hear what you have to, your needs are, and we will try to give you some guidelines of how to proceed to complete the paperwork that you have while you're still in that foreign country. Next slide. So you went to your trip, you had a wonderful time, you enjoyed yourself, you loved it, you want to go back as soon as you can, as soon as you have enough money to do it. So if that's the case, the Department of State would like me to remind you that we will be interested in offering you a job. Yes, we are always, the doors are always open for individuals that have interest in a foreign country and living there and working on behalf of Uncle Sam. We're not as mean as you guys think we are. We are pretty good. In reality, working in the Foreign Service can be quite a fulfilling job. The basic job that we offer for recently graduated students usually is what we call the Consular Fellows. You can see all the details online at the careers side of our big website. And basically, we prefer the languages that are listed on the screen as you see here. They're the countries that we're going to have the more quantity of employees needed to fulfill the needs of the consular sections. You will work as a consular fellow with a 5-year appointment. Doesn't have to be always in the same country. You might all see that an opportunity opens in a different country with the same position that you have. And these are not full-fledged foreign service positions. These are like an entry-level positions. So in this option, basically, if that position is open, you are in Paris, and you are also speak Spanish, and you see that the consulate in Valencia has the same position as yours open, you could be able to say, gee, I would love to be close to the beach. And you will end up talking to your manager at the Paris consulate asking if this is possible. They will check with the office in Valencia, and if this is doable in the sense that the transfer is equal to your situation, they will proceed, and you will be able to work out of those 5 years, 2 years in Paris, 3 years in Valencia, and then you come back to the States. And then you can apply for the full-fledged foreign service job at that point. So consider that. It's only just saying. We are not very pushy, but it's an option that once you go overseas and you get the whole bug of, gee, I loved it out there. It was nice because I took the train. I was in Nice in France, but I took the train all the way down to Naples. I had a great time. Oh God, yes, please consider our job offer. Have some thought about it. It would be worth it. Next slide. We're done. What I'm saying. Yeah. Click. So ultimately, as a traveler, as a person that likes to be in a foreign country, travel to a foreign country, enjoy a foreign country, visit our website, stay connected to us through social media, see what we are saying. We are even in Facebook, Twitter. See the themes, issues that we present. Some of them are about safety and security while you are in a foreign country. Others are mostly about guidance, general guidance of what are the policies that are happening abroad regarding, in this most recently, the pandemic, requirements to travel overseas and such. But if you are interested in traveling, any of these options about what we are saying about going abroad are there for you to just share the information with other people. So keep that also in mind. And next slide. Any questions? Everybody happy with what I said? My God, that's awesome. To know how the renewal passport?
Yeah, the renewal is a question that we had, the renewal process.
You want to answer?
The renewal by mail application form has certain qualifications. So it has to be someone whose passport was issued in the last 15 years. You were over the age of 16 when that passport was issued, and of course you were able to submit that passport with that form. If you don't meet those qualifications, then most likely you're going to have to apply in person at a authorized passport acceptance facility. In your area, before COVID, there's probably about 4 or 5 within 15 miles. With COVID, you're pretty much limited to the U.S. Post Office.
If you qualify for the renewal form, it's a simple mail-in form. Form, photo, prior passport, $110. The address is on the form, where to mail it to. That would be an option for expedite versus routine. If you go for the expedite, you need to include $60, so it would be $170. And it's very straightforward. The renewal form, the trick, however, is to have a prior passport that you still have, that you can submit. If it's lost, you cannot do it as a renewal. That you can submit the passport. It was issued in the last 15 years, and you were at least 16 yourself when that passport was issued to you. If you had that passport in hand, very possibly you do qualify for a renewal process. It will save you $35.
And it looks like you have a question. For the renewal by mail form, the passport has to be included with that application.
And it will be returned. As long as the passport that we receive as evidence of citizenship is in good condition, meaning that you have not abused it, the passport will be returned to you in one piece after we process the new passport. Any other questions? Again, if you guys decide to enjoy some time in a foreign studies environment, plan ahead, envision what you want to do while you're there, study the country, the requirements in that country. When I said that about also, I need to add one more piece. When you're in a foreign country, even when you are in a Western democracy, do not always conceive the idea that you are innocent until proven guilty. That is not the case. Italy, which is one of the most popular destinations for US students, is the other way around. You are guilty until proven innocent. And you have to understand that even in that whole idea, the whole concept of law is very different. What was the question?
The last one question?
What was the last question? Oh, it's maybe in the, I don't have the chat open over there.
No.
Oh. What was that?
I think they're asking about applying for their visa. And so I guess that would be dependent upon if you need the visa where you're going. And I'm not sure if either Laura or you have information.
After receiving the new passport, I will need it. Yes, in that case, your program will basically address the whole issue of what paperwork is needed for the visa, where to send the visa, what are the requirements. So you're supposed to submit a photo also for your visa in some cases, some additional paperwork depending on your destination. But you have to submit your passport, plus the visa application, submit it to the foreign US, Italian, let's say, consulate. They place the visa into the passport, return back to you the passport with the visa in it. Anything else?
No, you had mentioned the potential for individuals to have a vaccination record, potentially with future travel.
Well, you can Google a lot of that. There's a lot of information that has surfaced in the last, I would say, the last 2 months. But the way that the travel industry is trying to address the whole how to restart international travel, and of course, the governments are just basically allowing the travel industry, the airline, the hotels, to get involved, infuse themselves into the process to see what is workable. But the way we are foreseeing the future travel, you will see that a lot of countries appears to be tending for the idea of the individual it's like in the old times, and you guys are too young to remember that, but we all used to carry our vaccination booklets way back when. The idea would be that on arrival at the airport, let's say here at SeaTac in Seattle, you will be not just showing your passport, but also your vaccination record. Most elements of the travel industry prefer to have an electronic vaccination record appear, so that would be another angle that will evolve with that, in the sense that they will be, and you can see also, you can find that a lot of information about that online. You just Google that in the news. It's a vaccination passport. Basically, you show up with your smartphone. It will show maybe a QR code on their screen that they will to scan, and that one concept will transmit for you for a green light on their screen, indicating that you are clear as you have been vaccinated. So we are too early in the game to understand in what direction specifically. Here in the United States, United, Delta, and American, all three airlines are testing different formats of the concept, and it will become a standard. The way we see it, it will become a standard by the end of this summer, beginning of fall or so. That should be a basic standard, not just for the United States, but agreed on by several countries as a method of allowing individuals to move from one country to the next without limitations, as they can prove that they have been vaccinated, they are not infected, and such and such and such. But at the moment, the Department of State we are only basically sitting on the sidelines, waiting to see where it is taking us, because this will be an international agreement, and that is something that is outside of passport services. This is a very political higher way above us. We will be waiting for what instruction we'll be receiving as for what information to provide to the public. But the issue that this will happen is, at this point, is taking enough energy and moving the whole idea and concept forward, because all the big economies, which is basically the big Western countries, China, Japan, Russia, are pretty much all looking in the same direction. So we can see that the possibility of this vaccination passport, or COVID, or pandemic, or whatever you want to call it, will become a reality is very high. It's very, very high, and there's no way for us to determine one way or the other, because we're still kind of early. But yes, we're moving. It appears as a group of the big economy, which basically carry the bulk of all major travelers in the world. They're all pretty much moving in the same direction.
There's a question about flying online.
Okay, I was expecting that somebody will have the question of the day. At the moment, passport services do not offer an application online. Later this year, however, and that is even when it's our doing, and we're waiting for the political group in the department to basically approve on it. Very possibly later this summer, the renewal of passport will be possible online. The first-time applicant, however, we at this point cannot conceive an option for them to apply online as a first-time passport applicant. A person that still have a passport that can qualify for the renewal process, very possibly by next year, it will be a standard process to allow that individual to come forward, submit a scanned photo, submit a online electronic application. We will verify that application against the data that we have from the prior passport. If we believe that it's one and same person, same signature, more or less similar data, boom, we will issue a renewal passport to that one individual. But as for first-time applicants, we do not see that a possibility.
Okay, well, thank you so much for your time. I don't know if, I know I've been communicating with Aileen. I don't know if Aileen has specific questions, but I do want to be mindful of our time here.
Okay.
So thank you again for all this information, and we'll have this so we can share it with future students on our website as well.
Okay, any questions you have, or if there's other questions that come to you later, feel free to send it to us, and we will be happy to answer those one by one. Okay?
Awesome, yeah. And Laura, thank you again for being here. I don't know if you wanted to add anything before we wrap up?
Oh, no, just wanted to say thank you. And I mean, yeah, just wanted to see if you had any questions for CA, but it looks like you got your questions answered at the Seattle Passport Agency. Thank you very much for joining us today. And happy EdAbroad Con Week.
Yeah, we sent a bag of swag, so hopefully you can pick that up at the student affairs.
She said we send you some things for you to pass on to the students. So
Awesome.
share with them. And anyway, thank you for having us over.
Thank
Thank you for, like I said, any other questions, let us know and we'll answer your questions. Okay?
All right. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Take care.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.